And because of this, there'll be this moment when you suddenly realize, hey, I did it. And it may be possible at this time to shift your entire existence to a higher plane. Hi, I'm Jane Holland. I'm a fiction author and an astrologer, and this is my creative horoscope for the full moon on October 20th, 2021, and surrounding astrological events. Please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and please leave comments below as well. By the way, if you'd like to read the transcript for this and all my other videos, you can find them on my Patreon account. There'll be a link below. So this month we have a powerful full moon in Aries on October 20th at 2:58 GMT. And Mercury will also have shifted direction by then. It's been going backwards for a while now, but now it's going to go direct. And Mercury particularly affects our communications, our travel, our plans, our ability to write and use language clearly and correctly. There I go, doing a Mercury retrograde, but more on that important development with Mercury later in the video. Please ignore the little clicky noise all the time. I have an old range behind me, and there's a kind of flap on it that bangs in the wind. It's all very, Wuthering Heights. So you may be forgiven for thinking, well, aren't all full moons, quite powerful lunar events? And this is true. The full moon is a time of creative culmination. It's the opening of the flower as opposed to the sowing of the seed. The light of a full moon floods the landscape, literally floods the land with light. And this lights up what was previously hidden and in darkness. And in the same way, it can illuminate our inner landscape and allow us to see things about ourselves and our lives that, perhaps we've been keeping hidden even from ourselves, particularly in an emotional way. The full moon also allows us to see when we have reached the end of a particular creative or emotional journey, and hopefully to show the results of that journey to the world proudly and with self-confidence. That's why the full moon is a time of culmination. Now, it should be a positive time, and usually is, but of course not all experiences are universally positive, are they? Not in every single way. Some full moon revelations can come as a tremendous shock, a shock to the system. Maybe the penny drops on a situation you haven't really understood, or you get a worrying communication or a health concern out of the blue, or someone leaves unexpectedly. Or it can be experienced as a wonderful burst of creative energy. And of course, as creative artists, because all these horoscopes on my YouTube channel are geared specifically towards creative people, towards thinkers, artists, writers, dancers, painters, sculptors, musicians, all that. As creative people, as artists, we need these bursts of energy, of self-expression, of inner illumination, so that we can work truthfully and with full confidence in our own creative vision. But this month, there is an extra oomph, an extra power behind this particular full moon, and this is for several reasons. One, this full moon falls in bold and fiery Aries at 27 degrees, and Aries, of course, is the first sign of the zodiac. Now, since the full moon is traditionally a time when we wrap up a project and send it out to the world, and that still holds true, of course. The sign of Aries is kind of the opposite, really. It's basically about springtime. It's the first sign on that long path through the zodiac to Pisces at the other end of the horoscope, if you like. And it's a fire sign. It's burning, it's bright, it's a time of real creative power. Its ruling planet is the god Mars, the warrior god, banging his sword on his shield to get everyone's attention, lusting after maidens, and generally running amok. So it's the sign of the male. It's a sign of male power and virility, but also the power that women have within themselves to get up and go, to do stuff, to get things done. It's also about procreation, obviously. It's about making babies, making new things. So you could have new creative projects springing up everywhere. It's green sap, it's juices churning, it's buds unfurling, and new ideas springing out of nowhere with a fresh green power driving through the world. So this full moon, a time of completion, is actually also a time of new beginnings. So maybe for some of us, for instance, this full moon will represent the end of the beginning rather than the beginning of the end. Fingers crossed. Most of you, those who don't have anything afflicted in Aries or maybe Libra, being triggered by this full moon, and you can easily find your birth charts online for free, mostly by Googling free birth charts. Most of you should expect to feel powerful and energetic and also ready to create something new, to put your mark on the world, while also perhaps finishing a project that's been going for some time, ready for the world to see it. And it's not merely the sign of Aries that makes this full moon so powerful, because the moon also touches other planets as it comes to oppose the sun in Libra. A full moon, of course, is when the moon stands across from the sun in the sky and for a few marvellous hours every month reflects back to us the full burning brightness of the sun, its power and its awesome significance to us on Earth as the prime giver of life in the universe. Without the sun, we wouldn't be here. And this full moon is also opposing Mars, the ruler of the moon for these few days, because the moon is in Aries and Mars rules Aries. So it's a bit like a nod to the gods, if you like, a nod from the moon to its current boss or host, if you like. And as Mars is ruler of both Aries and Scorpio, this full moon is likely to affect those two signs more than others, along with Librans, of course, because Mars is in Libra. And the sun, of course, this is Libra season still. Mars in Libra is under the softening influence of Venus, which rules Libra, so making him a bit less fiery and warlike and bringing out his inner lover, his inner sexy side, and also his ability to lead and make clear decisions, because Libra is an air sign and rules thought, justice, leadership, cerebral activities. So anyone working with language, thought, the written word, are likely to benefit from this rather martial full moon in Aries, but also anyone working in a Venusian field, which will be most creative people, I would say, because of this Libra Venus thing going on. So music, dance, painting, any of the plastic arts, anything that's connected to beauty, harmony, artistic aesthetic, even mathematical symmetry, All of these have Libran and Venusian qualities. And Pluto, the powerful significator of change in our lives at a very deep level, personal and social, even global transformation, is connected to this full moon as well, squaring the Sun, Mars, Moon axis. There's Pluto here squaring it. It's a bit like a runoff, if you like, a way of channeling that opposition, the sort of intractable opposition. There's this T-square, and you could go sideways to get rid of some of that energy if you don't change, or you can't change whatever you're doing. You may find change is forced upon you around this full moon on October 20th because of the kind of unyielding angles this axis and square involves. It's a 90-degree T-square that points us towards Pluto here. I'm waving my hands around and hoping that you're going to understand what I'm saying. Change or die is Pluto's rather oppressive message. Die obviously isn't necessarily real death. You're not going to die. It can be interpreted quite loosely. For instance, if we give something up, or we have to leave something behind in our lives for whatever reason, that thing becomes dead to us. So change or die, you may have something taken away from you if you cannot make a necessary change at this point. Now, this could be a creative project that you're forced to abandon because something new and powerful comes along to disrupt it or force our hand. For instance, an urgent new commission stops you working on something you're already doing, and maybe you never go back to it. Or worse, a letter from the taxman arrives, or a final bill demanding that you go out and get a proper job. If you've just been working at home and sort of speculatively hoping that this will make you some money, your hand may be forced and you have to make a change. You might be able to go back and work on that thing later. But also we may decide to make a radical change to a creative idea at this full moon, having seen the light, as it were, the light of the full moon, when this dazzling brightness dispels all the shadows that were there before, and we can suddenly see what was hidden, what was in the shadows. Now, for some, this could be a kind of road to Damascus moment, a moment of epiphany or inner revelation that can shock us out of our usual humdrum daily routines and into something either marvelous or scary, I guess, depending on how you particularly react to change in your life. Now, in some aspects at least, because this is Pluto, you may never be the same again. If you take up Pluto's challenge at this full moon, is, rather than resist change and perhaps face consequences for that resistance further down the line. But of course, the full moon is about emotional change overall. It's about an emotional inner experience as much as an outward change. So you should beware with Mars Pluto so active at this full moon that you could actually overreact. They can feel so powerful that you overreact and make a too hasty decision based purely on an emotional response, maybe a feeling of being overwhelmed or frightened by a tense or challenging situation, and you feel you have to do something. Rather than get pushed out of your comfort zone, you have to make a different choice, which is also uncomfortable and could be the wrong way to go. So it's important at this full moon to stop and think, to use that Sun-Mars conjunction in Aries cerebral Libra to consider your position. And it may be that you need to hold the line at this time in a kind of warrior style response to a challenge. For some of us, holding the line could actually be the change that you make. Perhaps in the past you haven't held the line, you've crumbled, you've prevaricated, you've passed the decision on to somebody else, and now you're put under so much pressure and you think, damn it, I'm going to actually stand up here and be counted, or stand up for myself, or make this change. I'm sick of being weak, I suppose. So there is the idea that there might be a shocking revelation about yourself, that you hold the line and then the sky doesn't fall and you don't crumble under pressure, that you're able to speak frankly and clearly when threatened and say no thank you to whatever it is, and the sky doesn't fall. The good news, yes, there is good news. You were waiting for it, I know. The good news is that Jupiter is widely trine the Sun-Mars conjunction up in Libra, because Jupiter is in fellow air sign Aquarius. So this is a very generous, joy-giving and expansive influence, and it could water down the clash between these powerful planets, especially for Aquarians, as that is where Jupiter is at the moment, before it returns into Pisces at the end of the year, which would be a very interesting, exciting time. So this suggests to me that some of you could be making strong decisions for change at this full moon. Not just Aquarians, but everyone could be making these sort of expansive ideas are going to expand your career and your career possibilities. So whatever the changes that you make because of all that pressure that I've spoken about, could actually in the future be seeding new possibilities for you, new pathways, and new financial gains, because Jupiter and indeed Venus rule money. However, overall, the picture is one of quite a turbulent but powerful full moon, when you can make decisions that could change your entire life, and not temporarily, but in the long term. Now, to return to Mercury, which I said I was going to talk about back at the beginning, Mercury has been retrograde for some time now in Aries Libra. Now, Mercury retrograde is a time when things that can go wrong will go wrong. So when it turns direct on October 18th, many of us are going to breathe a sigh of relief at missed emails suddenly appearing, or phone calls happening that didn't before, and we were wondering what on earth happened about that. So by the time we get to the full moon, 2 days after Mercury turns direct again, this new direct energy and communication is going to be fresh and new, giving us energy to speak and to plan and to move about more freely. But of course, when Mercury starts up again in a direct motion, it's quite slow and gradual at the start. It takes a while, a few days, to gather speed again. So you may find that this is true, that there is a bit of a lag before, things won't come in immediately on the 18th. You may find you have to wait until a few days after the full moon on the 20th before things start to really gather pace again. It's also important, finally, to point out that Chiron, a very sensitive point in astrology that speaks to us about past wounds and the ability to heal them, Chiron is opposing Mercury exactly on the day of this full moon. Now, this can work in various ways. For some people, it's not going to affect you at all, but for others, the decisions that you are forced to make or choose to make because of that Pluto pressure, they could actually trigger memories of past wounds, childhood wounds, previous marriage wounds, whatever, relationship wounds. Particularly, it's about emotional hurt. You might, for instance, get a communication, which is Mercury, which talks to you about these past wounds, but also offers you an opportunity to heal them. Maybe the decision you make reminds you of some of the past errors you've made, and these could actually come back to haunt you. Mercury in Libra particularly can be about indecisiveness, because Libra is the scales and it's always trying to balance. It doesn't like to go one way or the other way. It always wants to balance. So there's a desire there. What I was talking about before, about holding the line and making decisions that maybe you try to avoid before. This is about sitting on the fence and letting other people make tough decisions. So you could be torn between doing what you know is right or you feel is right, and the fear of rehashing an old mistake and going back into a hurtful situation that you tried to forget about, or you hoped was healed but really isn't. Are you going to stumble and fall again? Maybe you feel you've rushed into something under the influence of that pressure and later realize, oh, I've bitten off more than I can chew with this. But of course, old wounds can indicate tried and tested strategies for dealing with these kind of issues based on hard experience, based on your own experience. You have survived. You know how you got out of that bad situation. So use your own experience, use your own ability to heal in order to heal on this occasion. But it is important to go slow, which is always easier when Mercury has just changed direction and is going direct again. Because of that slow and gradual build up, you too can move slowly, and you probably won't be penalized for that at this time. It may have been bad in the past, but you're still here. You made it. Remember that. So Chiron asks you to use these lessons from your past and take baby steps. And because of this, there'll be this moment when you suddenly realize, hey, I did it. I made that change. I held the line. I stood up and spoke out. And the sky didn't fall, or if it fell, I'm okay with that. I found ways to deal with that, and I I can do this. And that moment is going to bring you such exhilaration and self-confidence that it is worth it. It's worth trying for it at least. And it may be possible at this time to shift your entire existence to a higher plane, to become a higher being, a higher version of yourself. Not necessarily better, just higher. You're operating on a different level. Because you've revealed a whole new layer, a new level of creativity inside yourself by going through these changes, by going through these decisions that are so tough. The exhilaration and self-confidence that comes with that new knowledge is going to carry you through and lead you away from those past mistakes that may have held you back. So have a wonderful and truly creative months, my friends and supporters. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel. I look forward to speaking to you next time.